the top of a towering skyscraper lies a private studio owned by no other than DJ K's herself, also known as Big K or K for short. Her high-tech music studio offered a panoramic view of the city skyline, a beautiful scene for a constant source of inspiration. K's was a pioneer in the world of chill hop, a genre that blended jazzy chords, lo-fi beats, and nostalgic samples. Her studio, a marvel of modern technology, was her sanctuary, a place where she could lose herself in rhythm and melody. The walls were adorned with vintage vinyl records and state-of-the-art sound equipment. You've heard by now that K's is my fixer. The truth is, K's is my twin sister. Bobby is her real name. We're both natives from the Kuala boundary in North Carolina. KZ has access to a vast amount of information, but she only trades secrets with a few trustees like me. I guess you can say she's my personal information broker. You may be wondering where the geisha part came in. Remember when I infiltrated the highest echelons of Neo-Tokyo? I needed an identity to get around the criminal underworld undetected. Bobby created a dossier for me so I could get around disguised while on the mission. As I exit the elevator on the top floor, the aromatic fragrance of a traditional incense sent me into immediate tranquility. I loved the smell around her studio, very relaxing. In her leather chair, she sat behind her holographic disc jockey station, unused and quiet. Not something I'm used to witnessing. There's fresh music, always booming here. As I held the bicameral mentality book in my hand, something felt off as I approached her. She was motionless. Case, I'm sorry. I should have never doubted you. I should have came back sooner, I said. I stood in front of her holographic station as I laid the book in front of her. Bobby's eyes trailed with tears as eyeliner bled down her face. She was holding a familiar beaded bracelet passed down by our grandmother. Do you think we'll ever go back home again? In a soft, broken voice, she said. I held the bracelet firmly in hand along with her. Yes, Bobby. I held on to her, as I know this moment would mean a lot to her. Cherokee are a proud ancient civilization with deep, enduring connections in the mountains of North Carolina. For centuries, they thrived in these lands, living in harmony with nature and developing a rich culture. Their society is complex, with intricate social structures, spiritual beliefs, and artistic traditions. However, the arrival of European colonists in the 16th century brought significant upheaval. As settlers encroached upon native lands, conflicts arose, leading to displacement and the loss of ancestral territories. Many Cherokee children were forcibly removed from their families and sent to boarding schools. These schools aimed to assimilate Native American children into Euro-American culture by suppressing their native languages, traditions, and spiritual beliefs. The 19th century marked a dark period in Cherokee history. The Removal Act of 1830 forced Cherokee and other tribes to relocate to Oklahoma. This forced migration, known as the Trail of Tears, was a devastating ordeal that resulted in the death of thousands of natives. A small but significant number of Cherokee managed to evade removal and remain in North Carolina. These individuals, known as the Eastern Band of Cherokee, established home in the mountainous region of western North Carolina. They've worked tirelessly to preserve their cultural heritage, revitalizing their language, traditions, and arts. The Dawes Act of 1887 allowed the US president to divide native territory into allotments. This turned their land into sovereign property under the United States for control. Despite assimilation, the Cherokee people demonstrated remarkable resilience. Today, the Eastern Band of Cherokee is a thriving community. Their home, the Qualla Boundary, is a popular sight among visitors, offering a glimpse into their rich culture and history. Although Cherokee continue to face challenges, they remain steadfast in commitment to their heritage. Their story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the enduring power of cultural identity. Bobby, a young Cherokee woman, had always known a comforting rhythm of the Rocky Mountains. The wind whispered through the pines, carrying the ancient spirits of her land. Her life was simple, yet rich, hunting with her father, weaving with her mother, and learning the sacred traditions of her ancestors. In 2059, when Bobby was 10 years old, a shadow fell over the Cherokee lands, a shadow cast by a colossal corporation with eyes fixed on their vast, fertile land. The corporation, driven by greed and power, sought to exploit the land for its own gain. They offered a deal, a soul-stealing bargain, a new fertilizer that would ensure bountiful harvests for upcoming seasons in the dystopian world. Desperate to preserve future generations, they accepted. The fertilizer was a poison, a slow-acting venom that seeped into the earth. The once vibrant land began to wither, the crops to fail, and the animals to sicken. The once clear streams turned murky, and the air grew heavy of a harsh chemical odor. The natives, bewildered and alarmed, turned to Biotechnica for answers, but the corporation offered empty promises and lies. As the land deteriorated, so did the health of the Cherokee people. Strange illnesses plagued the community, and the spirits of the forest seemed to weep. It became clear Biotechnica intentionally poisoned the land, a calculated move to force the Cherokee to abandon their ancestral land and take over. Bobby, heartbroken and furious, vowed to protect her people and their sacred land. She joined her community's resistance movement against Biotechnica. Biotechnica agents arrived to inject an antidote into the land and restore its natural habitat, but not for the natives. The poison initially applied was designed to suffocate the lands rather than kill it. Their motivation was to make the locals abandon it. Biotechnica wanted the land for themselves, but didn't want complete destruction of the soil. As Biotechnica agents set up station nearby to continue their agenda, a massive riot broke out to protest the evil wanting to corrupt their land. Biotechnica reminded the resistance movement of the terms and services from a nefarious contract, but the natives weren't buying it. Suddenly, something beyond the laws of normalcy startled everyone. At the center where Biotechnica set up station, a bright light flashed with the intensity of 1,000 suns in front of a protest. A few seconds passed, and the light began to fade. As the perplexed protest began to uncover their eyes from a blinding flash, something unnerving fell before them. All of the Biotechnica agents dropped unconscious to the ground. No blood, trauma, or open wounds, just lifeless bodies lying on the ground without a struggle, not even a faint pulse. Something stood in the focal point where the flash occurred, a silhouette of a woman encased in blinding light. The divine entity points towards the girl, but Bobby ducked behind the crowd in fear. A tranquilizing divine presence kneeled, extending an arm palm up, as though she waited for the young girl to take her hand. Bobbia felt emotioned by the divine presence. As she gently pushed her way through a crowd of people, Bobby shielded her face from the blinding light approaching the woman. As she slowly touched the rays of lights, its presence faded away. The light disappeared and the protests fell silent. The bodies on the ground were still unconscious, without any explanation. Could this be the spirit of Kuala herself, protecting her homeland? The NUSA Department of State, Agriculture and Environmental Protection Agency conducted an investigation and determined Biotechnica violated trust, poisoned crops, caused destruction of property and land within the NUSA. The news showcased horrifying stories of many natives hospitalized from what was later described as a bioengineered weapon from an official report. The composition of the so-called fertilizer was censored from public, as its contents described within would have terrified even the most hardened human rights movements from around the world. These crimes against human and Mother Nature were traced back to President David Wyndham, a former executive of Biotechnica in his previous career. President David Wyndham was quickly charged with corruption, abuse of power, and genocide. He was impeached and convicted of his crimes while in office. USA Reverse engineered the antidote left behind from Biotechnica to cure the native soil. Meanwhile, a handful of scientists, oblivious to their own actions, defected from the malicious core, hoping to seek redemption and avoid prosecution. It will take many years to fully cure the broken lands without expertise from the original creators who later went into hiding. To protect the native population from further harm, the former vice president ordered a quarantine of the Kuala boundary, with an official statement calling it a bioweapon orchestrated by double agents. Biotechnica was severely sanctioned by the NUSA and banned from providing services to any indigenous group of North America ever again. The Cherokee people were forced to abandon their beloved homeland again and migrate elsewhere. This historical dystopian event became known as the Weeping Earth. A handful of Cherokee evaded quarantine and stayed behind to cleanse the evil from the land and restore its balance. The rest fled carrying the seeds of their culture and unwavering spirits. As they journeyed into the unknown, they vowed to return one day and rebuild anew. Bobby, the young woman who witnessed the destruction of her home, would lead the way as a spiritual messenger. The remnants of the Cherokee Nation, driven from their ancestral lands, sought refuge in the most unlikely of places, the desolate expanse of Antarctica. The icy continent, a place of extreme cold, was a stark contrast to the lush forests and rolling hills of their homeland. Yet the Cherokee, with their indomitable spirit, saw opportunity in this frozen wilderness. They believed that if they could survive and thrive in such a harsh environment, they could overcome any challenge. The journey to Antarctica was arduous, fraught with danger and uncertainty. The Cherokee people, hardened by adversity, faced the biting cold, the raging storms, and the isolation of the polar landscape. But they persevered, drawing strength from their shared heritage and unwavering belief in a new future. The icy continent was untouched by the arrogant stench of mankind, a perfect opportunity to start a new life. Once they arrived, they began the arduous task of establishing a new home. They built shelters from the ice and snow, learned to hunt seals and fish the icy waters, and harnesses the power of wind and sun. They adapted to extreme conditions, developing a unique cultural blend of traditional Cherokee practices with demands from their new environment. As they settled into their new homes, they began to restore spiritual connections to the natural world. They planted gardens in hydroponic domes, cultivated algae for food and medicine, and studied the intricate ecosystem of the Antarctic region. They learned to respect the delicate balance of the fragile environment while living in harmony with its inhabitants. The journey was fraught with challenges, but the Cherokee people found a new purpose in Antarctica. They became guardians of the icy continent, protecting its pristine beauty and its delicate ecosystem. Their story is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a reminder that even in the harshest conditions, hope and renewal can emerge.